We're here on Tidemark Talks again with Steve Dickler, who is the founder of Chef's Toys. A lot of fun just to talk through this today. And you know Taylor, my son, and my son-in-law Basil. So let's just get started. Let's start chatting.
Thanks for joining us, Steve.
I'm going to start at the big event of late. You know, it's been a little while ago, but you build Chef's Toys to a level, and then you sell it. So when you at its right before you sold it, how many stores did you have? And kind of give us, kind of where you were with volume and number of employees, because that's part of this story of going back and looking how you built.
Well, we had 7 stores. We were doing a little over $100 million. We had 200 and some employees, and I loved working my whole life. I loved working, but it started to weigh on me with the big brother state.
Just putting the kibosh on.
Driving you crazy with rules that made no sense. And you could see how it was affecting all businesses. And especially the HR things, like we were doing things with great intention to help the employees, but some of the laws were set up that it hurt those particular employees. There might be other people that it helped, but not the people that I worked with. And I just was getting really frustrated that I was paying all of these people to do jobs that had nothing to do with our business, right? It doesn't create any revenue. It doesn't help our customers, nothing. They're just managing. So at that time, was 2017 when I started looking. I mean, in our industry, food service, everybody was so many mergers and acquisitions. The money was so cheap. The interest rates were so low. It was going everywhere. So I put my feelers out and said, this is a great time to look into it, because I have one daughter, and she didn't have any interest in working or taking over the business, and I didn't really know what else we were going to do with it. So I go, when is the best time to negotiate to sell your business? Is when you don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I was only 58. I didn't need to sell it, but I wanted to.
You're not under the gun.
I'm not under the gun.
Sales are flowing.
Right. And I thought the opposite too, right? When I want to retire and I'm maybe 80 or in my late 70s or something, now I'm going to get a bad deal, because they look at me and go, he has to sell. He has nothing else to do. And I just got lucky. I had the right contacts. A lot of people helped me, talked to other people. We got a great deal, sold to private equity, and I stayed on 1 year. And
that when you were doing that, just because you and I haven't even talked about this, so you put the feelers out, the buyer comes along. Are you having to go to them? Are they coming to you? Is it part of an equity deal? They're bringing money in from New York, or how did all of it? What were some of the pieces of the deal?
Well, first of all, I didn't want to use a broker, and luckily, the type of business we were in, we were part of a buying group. And so that's a wonderful thing to be in, because first of all, it helps you in negotiating. It helps you in training your staff, things like that. But
that buying group is a conglomeration of business owners that just get sort of volume discounts.
Correct.
For your inventory.
I was in my 4th buying group,
or
3rd buying group already, and moved up to tiers to the top level, where there was just the biggest dealers in the country. So you knew all your peers. So you would just say, hey, I am interested in selling.
Yeah,
and
right.
they're like, oh, let me think about it. We would like to grow our business into your area. And I talked to some other people, and they said maybe this person, might be interested. And it worked. I talked to a few different people, and it's great because you're also dealing with people that understand your business.
Right.
They're in the same business. It's not like...
Well, and you were probably talking to them about how to value the business based on, you're saying 100, what would that be, 7? That's about $15 million per store, or plus or minus on average. So you're at 100 million. So you're probably talking to them about, okay, what's the value of my volume, and maybe they gave you some feedback on that too.
Well, they had purchased quite a few.
Oh, okay.
And they had their formulas.
So you had your comps.
And I had all my due diligence done.
Yeah.
I mean, I had all the work, all the Excel spreadsheets. I had great data, fantastic computer system, and I think they were impressed that any question they asked me, I could tell them, this is our number one seller, this is our,
Right. Right.
And anyway, they came up with a multiple of EBITDA for the purchase, and we agreed with it, and it worked.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
How did it feel? And we'll go back a little bit to your days on the East Coast, but how did it feel? Was it exciting when that negotiation was going on, or when it closed? Like when did the gravity of the moment, like you go, wow, I've really, over these years, I've done a lot, or what was the grab on it?
Yeah, it was probably, I waited till it closed.
Yeah.
I just don't count anything until I have it.
Yes.
And that was an amazing feeling, but it was also stressful because you think about your peers, your employees, your family. What do people think? What do they expect? I don't, it gets all caught up in your head.
Yes.
And I'm not the kind of person that would
Chef's
go.
Toys was your identity, right?
Right.
To a very large degree, and it's like your baby.
Yeah. And also things go through your head. How often should I go back and visit?
Yeah.
Is that disruptive to the new owners to have the old guy walking in and saying hi to everybody?
Yeah.
And,
I wouldn't have done it that way.
Yeah. Huh? Yeah.
You're hammering everybody.
Right. But they're all calling me too.
Yeah.
For till this day.
Yeah.
About can you believe this or that? But it was great. And I tell you what, I don't really get attached to things. I've moved my house 6 or 7 times. I've had different jobs. I just quit and started something else, and people are like, "How could you? What are you doing?" But it just doesn't. I just do it. So it didn't. I just go be the next phase.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's cool. When I was kind of thinking about this talk too, I remember we were at your building in Corona, and I was just like amazed how like every employee there, like warehouse, front of staff, everyone knew you and like obviously like had like amazing respect for you. So like I when I saw that, I was like, wow, Steve's really special because everyone like knows him and respects him. But so
that's a good point. Yeah,
so
because you go in any store, it's like that.
They don't know, the warehouse workers don't know this.
Yeah.
They knew you by name. You're like shaking hands. It was awesome. But yeah, so 200 people is a lot of people. Scaling that up, that's one of the challenges of scaling a company is the human resources. So it's like I figured you'd probably have some good insights on, what was your hiring process? Like how do you find good people? Because obviously you really cared a lot about your employees, and we think about that when we're trying to grow our business. It's probably one of the hardest parts, right?
It is. Yeah.
What is the magic to that?
Well, I don't know. I can't compare now to then, right? But I know, starting out, the only field I've ever worked in my whole life was food service, and that's a culture. And it's a wonderful culture. If you ever went over to anybody that's in the food service business, hopefully, or especially if they're a restaurant owner, they're probably so open and welcoming. And when you come in their business or their house, would you like some water? Would you like some coffee? Would you like?
It's like a family.
Because that's hospitality. Those people are natural for any business. I mean, people are. If you work in hospitality, you're trained to greet people, to help people. When to this day, I go in a store and I go, "Can you tell me where the copy paper is?" Down there on the right.
Yeah.
They don't do that in hospitality. They go, "Please follow me."
Right.
Yeah.
And they will take you there. And that's what we wanted in our business. So we started out hiring people that were all chefs.
Yeah.
They knew all the equipment. They knew how to use it. They knew how to talk to their peers. And that was the first, stage.
Yeah.
The second stage was just me personally, when you say that, I mean, I grew my first business of knife sharpening and everything by, not on purpose, just, I mean, I enjoy talking to people, but I respect every single person in the kitchen, whether it's the dishwasher, the cook, the owner. They're all the same to me, because if you have common sense, they're all your future customers, right? If you look at any restaurant, the dishwasher in 10 years will be the executive chef somewhere when they stay in that restaurant. Everybody moves
So there's
up.
a lot of internal move up.
Right. And
Yeah.
that was like Chef Toys too. We tried to move warehouse workers up to warehouse managers to,
I think that's a good point, because it's a little bit to that, like we were talking the other day, is, having good people, but then training them and letting them grow. I mean, that's such a big thing. And the shortcut is try to get people that are already seasoned, so that's tough, because they have their own way of doing things too when you bring them in.
Yeah, and people starting out, like, knowing that there's mobility and they can grow within the company means they're more invested, rather than like you're just kind of stuck in this one job.
Well, and you start to get into knife sharpening. I want to go back because we've done a lot of business together, which has been wonderful. And in Steve's office, he had a picture of a little boy, which was him, on the wall, which I loved. It was the greatest picture. Super cute, but it was so great. You're talking about the CEO, so he knows all these people. But here, his picture of it as a little boy is on his. How did you get that on the wall?
My dad was looking through his pictures, and he saw a picture of me. Maybe I was 4.
Yeah,
but I was in a suit.
Yes,
and I don't know where I was going. And he blew it up.
Yeah.
Real big, and I think it says the boss.
Yeah.
Or something on it. And he gave it to me to put on my wall, and everybody loved that picture.
Yeah, it looked like he's part of the little rascals.
Right. Absolutely.
I thought you were going to say the knife sharpening started at age 4.
Yeah.
Little Steve with chef's knives.
Well, and the reason I bring that up, because we go. You started on the East Coast. You grew up there, and you could give us. Well, I love the Cornell story. We got to talk about that because Basil went there. But maybe we start there. But you could talk a little bit about your family and how you ended up getting into hospitality.
Well, I always liked. My father was very good at working with his hands. He did woodwork. He taught me to do some electrical around the house, to fix things. I just really love that. I love the satisfaction of fixing something. And that's what I always wanted to do, something like that. And when I turned 16, my grandpa loaned me $500, and I bought a Dodge Dart,
Very cool.
Yeah, and I had to go get a job, pay him back, and pay for gas and insurance and everything. And I got a job at Chestnut Ridge Country Club in Maryland, working at the 19th hole.
Oh, sweet.
Making sandwiches, just in like a little snack shop. I'd never been on a golf course in my life. And, I worked there for the season, and the season ends, maybe September back east, or October, I guess, for golf. And
They probably take it to the bitter end.
yeah,
October 15th.
exactly. So the chef comes in. It was like my last week. And he said, what are you going to do now? Because I knew my last day was coming. And I said, I'm going to try to get a job working with machines and my hands, and I just like that kind of work. And he said, come in the big kitchen with me. And he said, because I'd like you to stay working here. So they took me into the big kitchen, which I'd only been in a couple times. And he said, you see that? And I see, now my eyes are opened up because I'm looking for a job, and I just got an offer to stay, not for more money, but just to continue working. And there's a big bandsaw, and the butcher's cutting, the meat and the bones with that. And there's the mixer. It's kind of like a drill press, right? And there's the guys flaming, the sauces in the pan in the kitchen. And I'm like, wow, this is pretty neat. This is kind of similar to what I do. I said, okay, I'll work. So I stayed there, and then I went to another caterer, just trying to learn. And I went to 1 year, after I graduated high school, I went 1 year to college for like a business management. And
So that would have been 18? Roughly, you were 18? 19?
yeah, I was 18.
Yeah, okay.
And then 19, I finished that 1 year of college.
Okay, so you had some, decent work experience by
Yeah,
then. That's
and
good.
plus,
Yeah.
when you work in that business, even 16, I was working over 40 hours a week.
Okay.
You know, I would go in at 7 in the morning on Saturday, and I'd leave at 1 in the morning, you know, doing weddings and things like that. So it was a lot of hours, a lot of good experience.
Yeah.
And so I thought I would be an engineer. I don't know why. I just thought, oh, that's somebody that does, you know, can figure out how to build things and all. And then I realized my math was good for annuities and business, but not for you know, trigonometry and and that kind of thing. I just couldn't figure it out. So anyway, I thought I'm going to be a food and beverage director. I don't know where I come up with that either. It's in the food service, and they probably is the pinnacle of the position that I would want to have in that industry. So I looked up what schools there were. Well, we didn't have the internet or anything back then, but my dad would get Restaurants and Institutions magazine, and there was an article on the top hotel restaurant administration schools in the country, and it was number 1 was Cornell, and then there was Michigan State, Florida International, and UNLV.
Okay.
So I go, okay, I guess I'll try to go to Cornell.
Yeah, and you're back there anyway.
Right, I'm in Maryland.
It's an easy in.
Yeah.
It's an easy in.
Easy. Yeah. So my dad drives me up, you know, to visit the school on the weekend, and you know we look around, and come back, and I put in all my paperwork, and they arrange for an interview with one of the alumni, and so I put on my suit, I get all my records together, I have to go over his house, and I go to meet with him, and I'm so proud of myself, you know, that I'm only 19, and I've worked all these hours in all these restaurants.
Tremendous
and I have
experience.
all this experience and everything. And he's looking through, and he said, well, I got to tell you something. He said, Cornell University is going to take one student from the state of Maryland.
Whoa.
He goes, your SAT scores are okay. He goes, you weren't the valedictorian of the class. You weren't the head of the football team. He goes, you're not going to be going to Cornell.
Wow.
Is that great? Yeah.
So I went home, and I kind of looked at the other schools, and I don't know why, but Las Vegas just seemed exciting to me with all the hotels. I put myself through school, so I figured it'd be easy to get a job there. So I got on an airplane, first time in my life at 19. I'd never been on an airplane before. Went to Las Vegas, and went to the school and rented a car.
So you get off the plane. Were you intimidated a bit? Were you exhilarated? What was the?
Yeah, it was exciting, super exciting.
Yeah.
I got a little hotel. Everything was so inexpensive. It was a joke. I mean, nice hotel was very inexpensive. The car rental was inexpensive. Food was, you go to one buffet a day, you're full.
Yeah.
So I was happy about that, and I looked for an apartment. I got that was the second time. This was just the first time to orient myself, and I decided to sign up and go in January. To start that semester.
First
in
year
January.
kind of start at UNLV.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then I packed everything I owned in my car and drove across the country, and stayed in a little
so you flew
motel.
back home and had to go
Flew
drive
back
it back
home
yeah.
and just decided to do it.
We can't leave the Dart behind.
That's right, the Dodge Dart. You got to pick that thing up. But that's an interesting drive in itself.
It
getting
was
across the
wonderful.
I
a
did
great
that a couple of
experience.
times. It's nice. Yeah.
Yep. A drunk hit me in New Mexico, in
boy.
Albuquerque.
Wow.
And I drove the second half with a dented door. dented door of my car. But anyway, it was a great experience. Got there, and went through a lot, and I rented a studio apartment, $210 a month for my own apartment.
Yeah.
But what year is this?
This is in 1979.
Wow.
And I went to the school to sign up, and I found out from talking to them that UNLV had the lowest ratio of dorms to students of any school in the country because it was so inexpensive to live there. The only people that stayed in the dorms were like international students.
Oh, okay.
You know, because everybody could just go get an apartment, or two people could go get an apartment. So anyway, I went there. I was in line to register, and still staying in a. Oh no, I'd moved into that little studio, and I meet this guy from New York, and he says, "Hey, pal."
Oh, you knew he's from New York at that point.
He says, "I'm going to give you some advice." I said, "What?" He said, "Don't start school till September if you're just getting here." I said, "Why?" He said, "Nevada has the shortest residency requirement of any state in the country. 6 months and you're a resident." So my tuition was going to be $28 a credit per semester. If you're out of state, it's $1,000 plus $28 a semester.
Wow.
So I'm going to save $1,000
I
a
see.
semester by waiting till September.
Oh, wow.
So I said, wow. So I registered to start in September, and then I, started interviewing to get a job, and that's a pretty cool story.
Yeah.
I went to the school to ask if they could help me, put me in touch with anybody to talk to.
Well, now you
and-
had a gap of time where you could do that.
Right.
Yeah, and you were
Well,
telling
I was
me,
running out of
how did you
money.
yeah, so you actually you sourced the job, your first one through the school then?
No, they told me I could talk to some alumni at different hotels, but yes, in the back of my mind, I was trying to use that to my advantage. And one of the alumni was the food and beverage director at the MGM Grand Hotel, which is not the same as the MGM now. It's
That
where
was the
Bally's
biggest. That was the biggest then.
It was the biggest hotel in the world.
Yeah.
And it was the biggest food and beverage department in the world.
Yeah.
And I went and spoke with him, and then he called upstairs and had me go meet the chef.
Wow.
And I go meet the chef, and the chef says, I'd like to hire you. He said, but you need to go down to the union and register, and I will call the union and put in a ticket to send you back out. So I said, okay. So I've never been in a union hall in my life. I go down to the union, I register, and then they call me into the office. I sit down. I'm so excited. And the guy goes, "Who do you think you are?" I go, "Excuse me?"
This is like the union.
The union.
Yeah. Okay.
I go, "Excuse me?" He goes, "Who do you think you are? Do you see all those people out there sitting down in the union hall waiting to get a job, and you go solicit on your own behalf?"
Wow.
And well, I don't know. I'm new here. I didn't know. And he said, "If you ever do that again, you will get fined. You will never be able to work in a union again. And you'll be in a lot of trouble." He goes, "Now here, go to the hotel and talk to Chef Pierre."
He just had to reprimand you. So you knew.
It's like the old mob ties.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was such a fascinating experience, because even to work in the coffee shop, flipping eggs, those guys were like 17 years old. They owned houses.
Okay.
I mean, a house was
Yeah.
40 grand,
Yeah.
30 grand, and they were getting paid more money to cook there than probably anywhere.
Was that because of union wages?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Okay. Wow.
yeah.
Wow.
So I think I started out at $58.80 a shift.
Okay.
So
So you go to work for
$7.50.
Chef Pierre. Are you now his sous chef? What,
Oh, no. They just hired me to work in. I had banquet experience, and for some reason, which is good for me, the union values the union contract values a banquet cook higher than all the other cooks.
Oh,
And
interesting.
the reason is probably because if you're a cook in a restaurant, you have a menu and you make the same thing all the time, but a banquet is usually different every single time, and it's different amounts. I'm a guessing.
Well,
I don't really know.
and that's
Profitable
probably
business,
because
too.
the customer
better
dictates what. If you're in the banquet, you're doing weddings, conferences,
Yeah.
and you're shifting the menu to
We
their.
did the showroom with all the
right,
all
right.
this Mac Davis and Lionel Richie and all that stuff. We were all,
Oh, that's
anyway,
fabulous.
that was a great job. But meanwhile, I started school, and everything worked great for me because I knew I always had the attitude from my parents: the harder you work, you will be successful. You have to outwork everybody, and I just have that in my head. Like if 10 cooks were standing around a table and we were all peeling shrimp and talking, in the back of my mind, I'm watching everybody. Am I peeling more shrimp than the other guy? Or are they feeling faster than me? I'm competitive that way. And I wanted to be the fastest, but not show off, just keep talking. Yeah, I went there. But meanwhile, and I'm lining all mine up perfect. And the chef walks by and sees I got a whole tray done. And the other thing was hours of work. I will do anything. So if I got off of work at 10 at night, the chef came and he said, somebody called in sick. Can you be here at 6 in the morning to work in the coffee shop? This is the thing. All the cooks wanted to work in the fancy restaurants. They want to work in the French restaurant, the Italian restaurant. Nobody wanted to work flipping eggs. And I said, sure, I'll be here in the morning. Well, after those 6 months before I started school, I was his right-hand man because whatever he asked, whatever he needed, he knew. I've already worked in all these different outlets. Well, he's done it before. Send him.
Yeah.
So when it came time to go to school with the changing schedules, right? One semester your classes might be more in the afternoon, another semester or certain days you might have morning classes. He'd work with me with whatever my schedule was, and that really helped me.
That's huge.
For college.
Yeah.
And by the time I was, had done that for a while, I realized I like cooking better than being a food and beverage director. I couldn't see myself ever in a suit. Mm-hmm. And so then right before my last semester, I didn't finish my last semester at UNLV, and I went to culinary school. And then I came back to finish my last semester. And the reason I did that was they told me that all the big hotel chains are going to come to the school and interview to hire people. And it was just like a lawyer CPA is worth so much more than the two separate, a food and beverage hotel restaurant degree and a chef is worth the most, for them.
Right.
So I had both done and went to the interview, and it was a joke, those interviews. I never signed up with anybody because they didn't want to pay any money. They were offering less money than I was making just flipping eggs or working in an Italian restaurant at the hotel because they want to get you into an apprenticeship with Hyatt Hotels, and they want you to spend this many weeks in the laundry and this many weeks at the front desk.
Oh, I see.
And they want you to put in your time for a year, and then they'll put you in a certain position somewhere. And I couldn't afford to do that. So I ordered the Orange County Register newspaper to mail out to Las Vegas, and I applied and talked to a chef over the phone, and they hired me at the Balboa Bay Club when I graduated, after I graduated.
Yeah, that was the piece I didn't know how you got to Balboa Bay Club.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Why Orange County?
Yeah, I was going to ask.
Well, my uncle lived in L.A.,
Okay.
and he was so good to me, and he'd have me come. I would drive in and do a party for some of his friends and things like that, and he'd pay me some money, for the food, and I got experience doing the party, and I would borrow his car and drive down to San Diego and back up, and I just really liked Orange County. Yeah. I just drove through it, and I go, wow, this is really, it's like a little more modern at that time, going through Irvine and everything, and I just go, this is beautiful. And so I just said, that's where I want to live. I didn't know anything, but that's just what I did. And then so I worked there, and I worked at Big Canyon, and then I was the chef at Balboa Yacht Club, and that's when the thing started with the knife sharpening.
Well, yeah, and that was kind of amazing too. How you, I don't want to say fell into that, but talk a little bit about, or go back one when you for the Big Canyon and all that. You were cooking there? In other words, okay, so you're chefing those. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then Steve started to tell me, and you can tell it, but this whole sharpening the knives, in a way, was the lead in to Chef's Toys.
It was the lead-in.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I never...
But you kind of fell into that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was sort of, tell us about that. How did you first dawn on you that you'd even do that or could?
Yeah, I was very happy, being the chef. But I had a girlfriend that I met in San Francisco, and then she came back with me to Las Vegas and then moved with me here. And after being a chef for a while, she left. And I realized something in the back of my mind was going, this is going to be your life because you're never going to be home on Saturday, never going to be home on Sunday,
Tough
never going to
hours.
be home on New Year's Eve, never going to be home, on Thanksgiving. And so that was in the back of my mind. Okay, put that aside. So now, while I was the chef there, the knives were all dull. And I called on the phone because everywhere I'd worked in the country other than California, we always had a knife sharpening service that came to the door and sharpened their knives. So I went in the Yellow Pages, I looked it up, I called. The only service they had in Orange County was knife rental. The gentleman, it was called Frank's Cutlery. He was so well known and highly respected, and he used to sharpen everybody's knives by hand. But then he started the knife rental business, and basically the way that works is you have a restaurant, and you determine you need 10 knives. They drop off 10 sharp knives, and every week they pick them up and just give another 10 knives. So they own them. You're just leasing sharp knives. But in the finer restaurants, the cooks like to bring their own tools, to have their own knives. And they want somebody to sharpen theirs, and they don't want to drop them off somewhere and not have them for a couple days, and they don't want to mail them somewhere. So I got frustrated. I couldn't find anybody, so I called the chef at Big Canyon, and he loaned me his little machine, and I sharpened all the knives in my kitchen. And then I just started playing around, and on my days off, the salesmen that would come in to sell me meat and produce, they would tell, go see the chef Freddie at Mission Viejo Country Club, and go see this guy and that guy. And I was not interested in money. It wasn't about money. It was just to keep busy on Monday and Tuesday, which were my days off. I had no friends really here. And what do you do? I mean, nobody else is off on Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah, right.
So I just started doing that. And, you'd go meet your peers, which was a lot of fun. They'd cook for you.
Tremendous.
Because that's just normally, hey, can I make you a pizza? Can I make you a burger? Are you sure? And then I'd get a tour of their kitchen. And then I'd invite them over to my kitchen, and I'd, bring your wife, or your girlfriend, I'll cook for you. So it was kind of neat. And being at the Balboa Yacht Club was really cool because we had the shore boat that would take the people out if they had a mooring for their boat. But I could talk to the guy who ran the shore boat, and I say, hey, I got some friends. Can you give them a little tour, the harbor? So we'd have dinner, and they'd go around. So everybody felt special, that we could then, and I'd have to take care of his friends when they came into the restaurant. But it was all fun. Yeah. But anyway, that's what happened, and I just kept playing around and buying more tools to make the knives better. And it's actually the chefs are the ones that taught me really how to sharpen the knives. I mean, I did what I thought, but each person would say, you know what, you need to do this better, or fix the point, or thin them out. And they would say, you see how you came up higher on the right side than the left side?
Wow.
I go, wow, that makes sense. I'm left-handed, whatever. And he goes, you got to make sure that it's equal on both sides. Just little things like that. And finally, I figured it out. And then I found a machine from Germany that someone showed me. It was over $2,000. A lot of money. And I just said, I'm going to take a risk. And I ordered it. And that thing, sharpened the knives with a belt with water spraying on it. And, it was all... It was very fast.
Yeah.
And I said, I could actually make money now.
Yeah.
Because now it's, just a couple minutes per knife, and it just started translating, and then
It's funny you say that. When I was in high school, I was started to play tennis back then, And same thing, I got a tennis stringing machine. After, typically what we do is take our tennis rackets to the shop. You got to wait for them to do it. They put the strings in, you pay the money, the markup and all that. And it was just took so long that I went to my dad and I said, hey, Paramount Sports is selling one of their machines for $250. And I think I could buy this, not only do my own strings, exactly the same, so I can really feel for that. And it ended up being all my friends gave me the rackets, and and you bought the strings for nothing. So it was just they're paying you for your labor. So it was it was a good sideliner, but it still is in the area that you love too. You're meeting all these people, you're networking. Right. Same thing in tennis. I got to meet all these guys, and it was a lot of fun.
Same thing.
Yeah.
So you were charging money before the machine. You just weren't making any money because it was taking you so much time to do it.
Yeah, I was charging money, and it was a little bit, but it wasn't anything to count on.
You just industrialized it.
Yeah, just more meeting people. I didn't really have a route, like go to one place that day, just something to do in the middle of the day. But it got bigger, and finally I went to my manager and I said, I'm going to be quitting. I'm going to start my own business. He goes, are you crazy? And he was positive that I would not make it. He said, I tell you what, I want you to stay here, just work Thursday night and Friday night and Saturday, Sunday. He was really worried about me staying through the end of the year because they were so busy with the boat parade and all those kind of parties and everything. And he said, I'll pay you your full salary, but you just work those days. And then at the end of the year, if you want to stay or if you still want to leave, you can leave. I was like, wow. So he kind of helped me start the whole business because I had my income and I had all day Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Wow.
I had most of the day Thursday and Friday to go build accounts.
And really set it up.
And that is the easy, one thing I could tell people, if you have any kind of business where you are doing something with your hands, that is the easiest business in the world to grow. And I give you an example. I would just call a restaurant and say, hi, I'm Steve from AccuSharp Sharpening Service, and I'd have a mobile service to come sharpen your knives. Would it be possible for me to come by and do a couple knives for you for free to show you the quality of my work? Who would say no?
Yeah.
Right.
Why wouldn't you have somebody come by and sharpen knives for free? Yeah. And they all said yes, and I go by, I might spend 1 hour on a knife. The first time.
Blow it out of the water.
I polished a handle. I engraved their name in it. I mean, they got that back. It was done. It was done.
It's like bling.
Yeah, it was bling. So I got everything. We had Disneyland. We had the Four Seasons. We had the Ritz-Carlton. Just, it was really fun.
That's great.
And then,
and like you said before, there wasn't really anybody doing it, right?
No.
Yeah.
But there had to be a switch where you said, okay, I can offer more products, and that had to be another step.
That was it. You got it.
Yeah.
So you're sharpening knives, you got to sell knives.
Right.
So I started selling some knives and spatulas and peelers and little tools. And I bought a truck and like a step-in van. And one day, this is a backstory, but I was at the gas station and I saw a Snap-on Tools truck. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what that was. I'd never seen that in my life. I walked up and I was like, wow. You take 2 steps in, you see all the tools on the ceiling, the walls. I go, this is amazing. So I got a truck. I called the company that makes the Snap-on Tools trucks, and it was unbelievable how much money that cost. But they said one of their employees just moved to California. Call him. He might be able to outfit my truck for me. So I bought a truck, and he came to my house for a couple weeks and put all the walls and the pegboard and dialed it all out. And I filled it all with the knives and small wares, and then I had my sharpening in there too. And that's how I started getting into the small wares. And then over time, sharpening the knives and doing that, I started to get frustrated because you want to sell and you want to sharpen. So you're sharpening knives, somebody knocks on the door. I would go to the hotel, and then the cooks would come out to the truck to pick up their knives or to buy something. I have to take off my headphones, take off my mask, take off my safety glasses, and then go sell them something, then go back. And I realized it's the same money per hour for both jobs, but I'm not efficient because I have to keep stopping. I can't sit down and sharpen 50 knives and then finish and then sell. So I got the idea to get a second truck that just sold and get and keep my truck smaller that just sharpened.
That's smart.
And then I hired a guy that was a chef, and he knew what all the products were.
So he could relate to the buyer, and perfect.
And then thought I have to have another name for this business, because before it was just AccuSharp. So the chefs, when they would walk up to that door, like I told you I did at the gas station, and they'd look up, without prompting them, people just naturally would say, this is like a toy store for chefs, or this is a candy store for chefs, something like that. And I just said, wow, that's a good name, Chef's Toys.
Yeah.
So,
and it's interesting, too, that the logo on some of the buildings now, even today, have the knife, which is a kind of a ode to the start of it all. That's
true.
cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I didn't know about the name. That's cool.
That's cool.
So that was great, and we worked up to we had 3 selling trucks with Chef's Toys, and we had 2 trucks for sharpening,
Right.
and that's where we got into the first building. So we got a little teeny office on Preble in Tustin, Old Town Tustin, and it was like a little office. We kept all the inventory of the knives in there, and then we started getting somebody for accounting. And then we moved over on Franklin and Walnut, and we had a suite there. We kept more things. Then we moved to Aston.
Yeah.
And on Aston, we took a big area and turned it into a little store, because the way our business worked, we were just going one day a month. So like the Ritz-Carlton, we went the first Friday of the month. So if somebody wanted to buy something on the third Tuesday of the month, they had to wait. So we'd say, you can come over here, and we have a selection. So the Home Goods went out of business. I think it was called Home Goods or Home something, one of these big places that sold everything for the kitchen and I bought the gondola racks used and brought them right over there and outfitted it, and it looked nice.
Yeah.
And then we made the big
That was a
move
nice
to
location,
Main Street.
too. Yeah. And then Main Street, Santa Ana was really the storefront.
Right.
The first storefront, yeah.
And a big thing in the middle of there that I left out was we were only selling tools for the chef. Tools. We weren't selling silverware, china, glassware, anything like that. Refrigeration, really, we didn't sell. And I met my friend Mike Kreppisman, and he had a business, Advantage Food Service Equipment, and he was selling a lot more of the front of the house, they call it, and we sold more of the back of the house. And a broker called me that somebody wants to sell their business, and I knew it was him. And I called,
You knew it was Mike's?
yeah. So I called him. I go, what are you doing? He said, it's just, and I said, come on, work with me. So we merged together, and he trained our people on the front of the house. And, we helped him with what we knew. And we had all the computer systems, and we had, a bigger staff, and we had the building. And that worked out great, and for all those years, we grew together. And
Well, I think also what you did when we met was you had a very cool, actually going back to Main Street and even Aston for that matter, we've had a lot of clients that have done something similar where the storefront will end up paying a lot of the rent or helping offset overhead while they're doing their normal business, their, whatever that business is. But your store setup, let's say with Fountain Valley, let's say with San Diego, was cool. It was a very warehousey Costco-y feel. Was that intentional? Did you just feel that was kind of like felt discounty, or what was?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm just seat of the pants common sense. I'm not that smart. I just think how I would think, or how I do think as a customer. A lot of people said I should fix up the store, put fancier. I said no, because now people think they're paying more. You put pallet racks up, and you put the lowest price, of course, and you get things merchandised in that way, and people like that shopping experience. Also, I've read different books and things, and people have told me merchandising, you want to make it so they have to walk through the whole store to get to this or that, or you want to change the end caps, all the time. I disagree in our business, because people are busy. They're stopping off to get something for their restaurant, and I want them to know where it is. Every time they come in, it's in the exact same place, right?
You're ahead of your time, I think.
Right.
I think
And
that was
that's
an
how
old
we
school.
were as chefs, too. In the walk-in refrigerator, big walk-in, the onions are always the first thing on the left in the first bucket, and the carrots were the second. You have to be efficient. You can't be looking in this whole room for that where they put the onions the last time. So,
Well, and going back to efficiency and practicality, Steve's the genius of practicality, because we would look at a building, let's say in Fountain Valley, and it's beat up. The building, I can't even see it. He goes, "Oh, this will work." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, just have the landlord clean the place out. I'm going to put a double door there." You already had it like in your mind how the thing would come together. So I love that. He's like the ultimate customer. I'm like, "How's this going to work?" And you're like, "No, I got it."
I am so excited.
Write it up.
Yeah, I write it up.
I'm like so excited to open a store. Everybody would laugh at me. But if we looked at it, it was already laid out the next morning.
Yeah.
I stayed up all night and then went with the team. And we're going to put this here and here. It was just so much fun, how to figure how to do that.
Well, and then you kind of jumped in on the real estate side of things, practically, smartly as well. There's opportunities that came along. I mean, just to hit the one in L.A., because I thought that was kind of the best one, where I don't remember if you had an option or something happened where.
Van Nuys.
Van Nuys, yeah.
Well, that was luck. I
Yeah.
mean, that was just
But
everything
you had
goes my
you had the
way.
sense to pick it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was the only other business I bought, but I bought a dealer in Van Nuys, been around since 1960 or something, Star Restaurant Supply. And that was a great family business. And Les and I, the owner, we were friendly through our buying group, and he wanted to sell the business, and then he wanted to sell the building. Well, he had a back building that was doing chrome plating,
yeah.
which is a very hazardous, a lot of chemicals. And we just went into escrow to buy the building while we were occupying, while we had owned the business, but we were renting it from him. We wanted to buy it. He wanted to sell it. But that tie-up and to do all the cleanup for that building was 1.5, maybe 2 years. Well, in that time, I was locked in, and the price of the building just kept going up and up and up and up. So that by the time we bought it at such a great price. And then we remodeled that back building.
Well, and I think what
leased
you
it.
did in that, and we would be driving the car and we'd be talking about real estate. In a lot of these, the ones that you ended up buying, you were just comparing it to rent. You were very practical in your approach. Like, well, if I can buy that building and it's close to what I'd be paying in rent anyway, typically you'd pick it up, typically. Right. And I think now you're using some of that real estate as investment income. We have one that you're selling and probably going to exchange from. But are you glad you did it?
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yeah.
You got to be.
Yeah.
This is my first, that one that I have now, that's the first time I've had a vacancy.
Yeah, right.
So I had,
Right.
I've lived through that a little bit.
It's a little zoning quirk, so I think it's smart
Yeah.
to sell in exchange. Yeah, I do. I think it's going to
I've,
work.
I've always appreciated working on deals with you too, because you're fair, you're kind, smart, pragmatic, like there's no emotion. It's like you know what the deal is and you get it done. I think that
Just don't peel shrimp with them.
yeah.
Blow you out of the kitchen.
But that's not the case with everybody. A lot of people act on emotion, irrationally. So it's nice to be able to like do deals like that.
Well, and we've talked about that with Steve, and you can comment a little bit, but like how you treat your vendors, the people you're buying from, I think is an art form also, and you've done a great job with it because I think more than anything else, you build relationships all around your business. And so I think talking about your buying group, how you bought the Van Nuys business, all that came from those relationships.
Yeah.
You're like the poster child of the harder you work, the luckier you get. And then you could add that for Steve, that like the harder you work and the nicer you are, the luckier you get. And I think the two of you guys could be compared that like if you have that foundation of hard work and eagerness to work and to serve customers and other people, like that builds this foundation of just kind of abundance that then you can be generous with people and you can be kind to people and then you get that back, So if you start by like building that foundation of like you wanted to work, you wanted to gain experience, you wanted to learn, and then from that comes opportunities or connections or like, you're working hard for this guy and helping him out when he needs you, and then he like throws you a bone when you're looking for something. And it's, so it's like
Similar philosophies.
it becomes that like virtuous cycle where starting with the input and then there's like this abundance for everybody to participate in and create opportunity and things like that.
Everybody has to make money. And you have to understand that in business. You can't get everybody down to the lowest price, because if they're not making money, you become less important to them, and they're going to go find other customers where they can make money. So I think that's just very important in business, is to realize that everybody you dealing with, you don't want to get taken advantage of, but everybody needs to make a profit.
Right.
Well, and I feel like playing off what Basil said too. I feel blessed to work in a business where we're trying to help our clients make money, find opportunity where they can thrive, whether it's the store, the warehouse, the manufacturing plant, where they're going to do their best. Some of those come off market, some are on market, some are options, some are unique circumstances. But it's really gratifying when you have people that you like and can help them do that, because I inherited a relationship with you a little bit through our friend Jay. He went into something else, and we had a friendly relationship on a transaction we did where I was on the landlord side. But we've done everything since then, but it's a great way to look at it, because I think everybody does need to make money, and if you can build your business around helping them, like you go back, you're sharpening knives for guys that are busy as heck. You're filling the void of them having to give up their knives for 2 days, which they hate. They're going to hate that. And then you're bringing the store to them initially. All that's building them up, right? Maybe in simple ways, but it makes their life better. So what? Now you have this business that flourishes. I mean, it's very much that. I see that with, so many great business people have that philosophy.
I was talking about that in another recent video, but like if we can put in the extra effort in our business, and we were talking about tenants and how to treat tenants, like our job is to do everything we can to make tenants as successful as they can be in that building. And if they view that building as a key part of their competitive edge that they're trying to build in their business, then the building is more valuable to them, and then they're more profitable, which then means that our clients, the property owner, can make more money. And if you're putting in the effort to help everybody be successful, then everybody can be successful.
That's right.
And be successful together.
That's right. It's exactly right. And I think as you started to really get momentum around the business, you did, like we were saying earlier, he hired great people. So were you still, because I don't even know this, were you going on a rhythm store to store, or did you just have great managers overseeing those? Because that's why you did the averaging. If each store was doing whatever it was doing, 15 million, 12 million, whatever the average was, that's a lot of volume.
Yeah. Well, first, for me, I never looked at the business as what did each store do. I always looked at it as one store.
Okay.
7 is one. And the reason is because think about if you have a chain of restaurants, which we had many. Well, maybe the corporate headquarters was in downtown Los Angeles or something. They'd go to our store there, but they might place orders for all the stores. Or somebody who lives in Torrance might be opening a new restaurant in Laguna Beach. They go to the Torrance store and they deal with somebody. So we had so much activity where the order was placed here, it was fulfilled here, it was delivered here. So all the stores were all working together. And sometimes it was hard to determine what each store was doing, but I just said, stop worrying about it. Let everybody
cooperate with
work,
one another.
and
Yeah.
everybody, it's all one. And I think that was a huge thing. And also for me, I met this guy. So when I first started out, I needed a program, and actually Jay's kids were in college. They knew about computers. I never had my first computer. Someone said buy a Mac because it's easy to use. You don't have to know the DOS or whatever all this type of language. So I got the little Mac, and the kids next door helped me, and they said you need a program, and they set me up with some guy for FileMaker. That was the name of the program.
Yes, I remember that.
And he charged $35 an hour to program. And I used him for maybe a year or two. And after a while, I'd ask him to do things, and he said, I don't think I can do that. And some things were a lot of hours. So then I met another guy named Pat, who he was a part owner of Mac Guys down in Newport or Costa Mesa. And he was like $80 an hour. And I was like, wow, I can't afford that. Well, Pat could do in $80 7 hours of the guy at 35, right?
Yeah.
And that really, because even in my buying group, the people would say, how can you manage this many stores, this many people? That computer, we did layouts of what we needed. I always had the common sense because I hated meetings my whole life when I was a chef. I didn't want to go to the meeting. I only wanted to go to the meeting if it was about something from my department. I don't want to sit there for 3 hours listening to a department about the boats or doing
Laying
the
out the
roof.
chairs,
I go,
right?
you're paying me to run that kitchen. Why am I sitting here? And I always loved Elon Musk saying, if you don't think you should be in this meeting, leave. And he was honest. He said, go do what we're paying you to do. And anyway.
That's great.
Yeah. Efficiency.
Well, and that was you jumped. My thinking was you had to navigate some of those changes going on in the world, the digital world, and then before you sold, you had started an online sales.
Oh yeah.
And that was huge because you started to talk about that in a building you needed for that, and you weren't sure if you were going to get the volume to cover the building. So it was kind of a risk when you kind of took that on. Mm-hmm. And I think it ended up playing beautifully into the company sale, if I remember.
Yeah, we had a good website. We were doing a lot on Amazon.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was just great, and everything was good. But I had the reports I needed, and I didn't want any junk.
Right.
I know people keep asking for data that they're not going to use. You only need certain things, and it was easy to manage. And with that building, with the website and all, it was all good times.
Yeah.
Once I sold the business, the industry was troubled, with the COVID, and I just got really lucky, also with the timing. Yeah.
You said something earlier that I wanted to come back to just to take advantage of the opportunity. You said if you have a business or you have an offering where you're working with your hands, it's the easiest thing to grow. And I wanted to just come back to that because we've come back to computers and automation and smart investments in that kind of technology. But I think that I've been thinking about this recently. If you think of AI and ChatGPT and these things that are extremely capable on analytics and sort of knowledge work, but they can't sharpen a knife, like they can't, like for in our business, they can't frame a wall, there's all these things. And I don't know if there's a theme or a trend there, but I wanted to mention it and kind of just come back to it because a really interesting observation that you made that, I think
I
is
like
relevant.
that. It's
You
like
think of-
if you're lucky if you're Amazon proof, maybe, unless you're selling through them. You're lucky
Yeah.
if you're AI proof in a way because you're doing things that they can't do, because then you're less risk, I think.
Yeah.
There's
And
certain
one
things
one
that-
possible theme too that I think comes from your experience and that observation about working with your hands and how you grew your business. It was from the most granular level and then building up from there to just sharpening a knife that chefs help you learn, to doing it in a truck, to doing it in multiple stores, to doing it online. But it ties back to the granular level, growing from the beginning to the big instead of vice versa. And I think, some of the audience that we have is, people who want to be entrepreneurs or are entrepreneurs. I think there's a tendency to want to come in from the top, but things I think grow more naturally from the bottom.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, there's a lot about. I lost my train of thought. You were talking.
Sorry about working
well,
with hands and
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what I was going to say was, when you're selling products like Chef Toys does, it's hard to create a point where you're worth more
Like to
to
differentiate.
buy something than to buy it from somebody else.
Okay.
If you're buying a refrigerator, that's what you're buying. You're not doing anything to make it worth more. Now, so I would say, well, who should I deal with for buying real estate or managing my properties? You guys could charge a different price than somebody else because you can demonstrate how your experience is different than somebody else. But for a business like ours to demonstrate that you should pay $1 more for this knife than if you shopped over there is pretty impossible. And that was also relating back to what you were saying about working with your hands. A craftsman, whoever put this backdrop up,
Yeah.
this could look a lot better than somebody who was the cheapest price. So people, and I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
something you
interesting.
have to think about. You can't defend, all sales books say defend your margin, defend your price. No, you can't. In the restaurant business, you have the world, the immigrants from all over the world that take their last penny to build a restaurant. And believe me, they're going to pay the lowest price for everything they buy. There could be tiers, right? There could be the lowest quality meat, the medium quality, the highest quality, but they're not going to overpay for it. They're going to watch every penny, and you have to have the best. You have to have the lowest price and keep their business and grow by volume instead of trying to succeed by having a higher margin on less projects, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But I think, if I go back and summarize, because your work ethic, combine that with your relationship building, combine that with your common sense, really was the driver of this business. Would you kind of agree? Those were sort of the three
Common
fundamentals.
sense.
Yeah, yeah. And that's tremendous. I think if you were to give advice, you today to young, and you just did, but what would that be? Same thing? Just make sure your willingness to jump in, because you bought businesses, you bought buildings, you changed businesses, you took 1 truck to 3 trucks. I mean, that's jumping in. So is it having the courage? What's the advice? Because everybody
Put yourself in the customer's seat. And we would tell our employees that we don't have rules. If somebody comes up to the counter and says, I want to return this, ask them why. Was something wrong with it? There could be a million reasons. Is that something? I don't like fixed rules that no returns after 72 hours. Well, what if it's something that we have 100 of and we sell them every day and a customer wants to return it 2 months later? Who cares? We're going to sell it. Just do it. It's a customer. What are you doing?
Right.
And and just say the customer has 5 boxes of stuff they just bought.
Yeah.
Hey, come on, let's help.
Yeah.
And everybody go walk the customer out to their car and help them put it in the car. I mean, everything is pretty, just put yourself in their position.
I had a great experience. I had one of those chips in my windshield, and I went to the dealer, and he said, "Oh, I'm not sure if you can repair that. You got to get a new windshield, right?" I called the chip guy. He was over in Santa Ana, and he says, "Bring your car over." So I bring my car. I can't even find the chip where he took it out, and he's writing up the thing for $75. He says, "I'll tell you what. If I charge you $50, will you tell your friends next time they have a chip in their windshield to come see me?" I go, "Sure."
You just told 1,000 people.
Exactly. So I've been honest with that. Yeah. But I mean, that guy was so cool. He was such a nice man. And it was like one of those things I go, that's customer service. Yeah. That's also not selling himself short. He still made money. You know, it didn't take him long at all. It was probably, to do the whole thing, was like 15 minutes. But I was happy to pay it. The windshield to buy it was $1,300. You know?
I'll tell you what, here's the $50 you asked for. Here's another $50 because I like you, and I'll still tell my friends.
Exactly. I'll still.
I'll tell you something else, though, for what you said, what you asked about. For a medium-sized to small business, don't cheat. You have to, if you do not have all the data in your database, you can't make accurate decisions. So if you sell something and you take the cash and you put it in your pocket and you don't report it, well, now you don't have the record that you sold that item. Mm-hmm. And everything becomes a long train of junk where you can't make any decisions because you don't have the right data because you were trying to...
Playing games.
You're playing games
right.
where you think you're winning, but you don't have the data to win.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that really helps, especially when you go to buy a business. People don't have any records. They tell you that we really do this much business, but those kind of things. Nobody's going to buy your business. You're not going to get the price for it.
You mentioned that the other day, and I was thinking about the math on that too, because like if somebody's like playing the side game a little bit and they're not reporting some kind of sales. Well, then when they go to sell the business, they don't get the pop on the
capitalization of the sales.
It's going to be more than the little.
Yeah.
So you're right. You got to play it. One of the things we try to say is, do what we say we do, and then just do it a little bit better. Because if you're doing what you say you do, you're ahead of 98% of the people out there. But if you do a little bit more, you're getting up into that 1%.
That's great advice.
Yeah, that's
great
what we're
advice.
hoping to be.
Yeah, if we told somebody, we tried to spread that to everybody. If you tell somebody, I'll have a quote to you tomorrow, you better have a quote to them tomorrow.
Yeah.
And if you don't, call them and say, listen, we've been inundated today. I know I told you I would have it for you, but I need another 2 days. They'll be happy.
Yeah.
But you got to communicate.
Yeah.
So many people don't do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's remarkable. True.
Yeah.
Well, and again, congratulations on the business sale. Chef's Toys everybody knows it. It's one of those, you're talking about the chefs kind of giving you the name, it's like the candy store, the toy store. Everybody knows the name, and to grow it from zero, coming from New Jersey out to
Maryland,
UNLV to Orange County, and you've been a blessing to Orange County. Think about how many people you've employed. So we're just thrilled to have you today. Thank you for coming on. And any other thoughts? But we're grateful,
Well,
Steve.
I just want to say, when I did sell the business, I was overwhelmed. What do I do?
Yeah.
And you said, let's go out to lunch or something. Congratulations. And I said, you said, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know. I'm going to invest it. I go, but I hate stock. I don't understand stocks. And I go, I'm just going to let somebody manage, whatever. And you said, what about real estate? And I said, well, I don't know. He goes, you do know. You know everything about buildings. How many buildings have you leased? Industrial. And I said, yeah, but I need to find an investment advisor. He goes, that's what I do. That's what we do.
I had to wave the flag. I'm like, here, where?
What do you think we've been doing all year? I said, So, and it's worked out. Jim, and Taylor, both helped a lot, and we've improved our cap rate at the building that your division is managing, the property management by a lot by cutting and doing things right. So it's been a pleasure work with you guys as well. We really enjoy.
Yeah, ours indeed. So anyway, that's our Tidemark Talks today with Steve, and very grateful.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks for having me.